Because presently we have graduates that graduate and come in the mass and employed as unemployed, and we know they have potentials, and they would have gone through entrepreneurship development skills in their universities. So we felt there's a need for another intervention, assist them have funds to be employers of labor instead of being job seekers. So that has just been floated, and it is called
the collaboration ongoing with the capital market. We want you to elaborate a little bit more on this, and if there are contributions you can get from the floor in terms of the working relationship, whether with the SEC or the NGX or any other organizations in the market, and see how we can onboard more.
Introduced to the market. So those are some of the initiatives that we have. In
a manner of speaking, you look into midwife some of the MSMEs that are under the BOI to the capital market on NGX. Give me a figure, 10, 20, 50.
MSMEs is a wide band, okay?
Yes.
So micro, maybe we take them separately. What can we do with them? Maybe not to the NGX immediately. I know the NGX is also working on a technology platform,
yes,
to onboard small businesses. So for the small businesses, for the micro businesses, I think we should leave that for now.
Some of the folks you need to work with are seated here.
Okay.
You can't go to the NGX as an issuer without talking to the gentlemen of the city and women.
Oh, definitely, definitely.
So they are the one, they are listening to you very carefully.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's the man to talk to, and for a very modest fee, by the way.
Thank you.
Because you won't be allowed on the floor unless they allow you. Okay, give him a round of applause, please. Let me ask Taiwo Shunekon, at the head of customer and experience at First Bank of Nigeria. Madam, are you still there with us online?
Yes, I am. Good afternoon.
Great.
Am I audible?
Yes, you're on. I was looking for the big elephant in the room. Oh, here you are online.
The big elephant is joining you virtually.
Great. It's good to have you. Tell me,
yes,
when you talk about commercial lending to MSMEs and all of that, give me a sense of what you like to see from the MSMEs, entrepreneurs and owners in terms of their approach to funding options and opportunities.
Thank you for your question, and thank you to the organizers for inviting First Bank to be part of this discussion. First Bank has been a key enabler for the SMS in Nigeria and will continue to do so. One of the things that I think is important is for entrepreneurs to start their business from day one, like they are going to be accessing funds in the future. What we've seen as a continuing trend is that we've had to midwife, to use your word, a lot of entrepreneurs through the process of getting or being able to apply for funding. So what we advise on a regular basis is start your business from day one like you'll be accessing funding. So how are you doing your record and bookkeeping? We let them know the free accesses or simple bookkeeping applications that can be used today. And I'm actually particularly targeting the audience in this because I know that most of the audience here are literate and are able to work through this sort of applications. For those that are not, we actually also work them through, we midwife them through ensuring that they're able to do adequate record keeping. So that's one big thing that is often missing. And we also encourage them to test their readiness for accessing funding. For instance, there are little grants here and there from bodies like BOI and the rest that, they're giving grants and aids. So how are you positioning to leverage these opportunities? The requirements for this sort of opportunities also make you ready to access funding in the time that you need it from a financial institution. Another thing that we see that, we try to help business owners is capacity building. It's not all the challenges that you see in small businesses or business owners is not related. A lot of them see their issues as finance related, but not all the time. By the time we sit down with them and walk through their cash flow, we see that what they really need to do is to do some tweaking. For instance, How quickly are your receivables coming in to meeting your payments that are going out? And we retweak it and we see that they don't need funding as at that time. And we see a lot of people or businesses getting into trouble because they're accessing funding earlier than required for their businesses. So it is important to understand what your needs are at that time and how you can, tweak things around to ensure that you're accessing funding at the right time, not before, not after. Also, what are your, we also see that when businesses come to us for financing, we ask a simple question: what do you need the money for? And that is really important. We see a lot of generalization. So we have to help them define what the specific needs are for funding. So that really helps. So for instance, if I'm into cloth, the business of dressmaking, what do I need the funding for? Is it to buy supplies or to pay salaries? A lot of times these questions are not particularly answered when people come for funding requirements. So we have to help work with the business owners to identify what their specific needs are. One of the key things that can be done is if the business owners here, we have a platform called SME Connect, and there's so many capacity building resources there. What are the resources you need, access to talents? We see so many things as one of the things that SMEs can use to grow their business without actually, going out there and over-investing in the resources.
Okay. From First Bank, thank you very much. Hold on the line. We'll have one or two questions for you, or perhaps questions from the audience, and we'll want your response. Let me ask you, Madam Duka, from the Central Bank, is there any way in which the Development Finance Department of the Central Bank is thinking of some of these interventions you're bringing on to onboard them with the capital market in view, rather than just doing those direct interventions from a central bank monetary point of view? Is there a thinking within, because development finance means capital market as development window? Is there something that is in the works, or is it something with, at some point in the future, that marriage between the central bank and the capital market?
Okay, by virtue of being a regulator, of course, we deal directly with the financial institutions, which are the mediators of onboarding these funds. And for now, of course, that's how it operates. However, there's always room for improvements, and I'm sure we will look forward to that, in fact, with this kind of capital market. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ayo Bajomo, let me come back to you very quickly. Do you think development finance window has been used, perhaps overstretched, that we need now to do a whole lot more with the capital market than the traditional DFI funding support? Because some of the issues that you mentioned as challenges for the MSMEs can just be cleared if you use the capital market platform where the CIS is. Because the discipline and the rigor that the capital market brings to bear on the MSMEs will be better for everyone in the long run if they know that they're going to a market where they are, quote unquote, undressing public.
First, to answer your question, I don't think the DFIs are overstretched or that they have reached their limits. There's still a role for everybody. There is always room for debt financing, and there's a role for equity capital market, financing. Your point is very valid, and I agree totally with you that just like I think was Niked had said on virtually that from First Bank that from day one, once you have in mind that you're going to be raising money. So if you from day one know that you're going to be standing or sitting before investors, you get your acts right. It will help put so many things in the proper compartment from the beginning. So those are the kind of things that we're going to be educating MSMEs on, to tell them, look, if you have things that will make you attractive to an investor on the capital market. So there's a role for everybody. There's a need for debt, and that I don't think can be exhausted. And there will continue to also be need for capital market intervention.
I'll be interested in having BOI tell me as an entrepreneur and say, well, from day one, I walk through your door and say, look, one of their long-term objectives should be to approach the capital markets.
Definitely, we are beginning to do that. And with this engagement, it's going to be an integral part of the onboarding of customers into BOI. We get all the training from NGX, so they tell us what it's going to look like, what you should look like down the line. So from day one, we're already working towards the answer, as it were.
So technically, BOI becomes an incubator.
Exactly. That's the role we're playing, actually. We're incubators.
Can we give him a round of applause, please? I love what he's saying. Sounds like music to my ears. And while you're doing that, make sure Amolegwe and the rest of his folks are hanging around the reception. They know what I'm talking about. Did you get that? You get that? Oh, they are going to pick up the lunch, by the way. Okay, let me ask the Managing Director and ED at Faith Foundation. Nike Adeyemi, are you still with me, madam?
Loud and clear.
Yes, thank you so much. In terms of the capital market platform, what's your view about how we can use them to onboard some of the organizations that you've worked with at Faith Foundation and all that?
Okay, so I'm very happy to answer this. Recently, about a year ago, NGX launched the Growth Board. And the Growth Board essentially is for SMEs who are not at that level to access the capital market, but who can be potential pipelines to that. And we've signed an MOU, and we're currently working with the NGX and a number of other financial and legal advisors to get some of our SMEs to be there. So for instance, for us, the eligibility criteria beyond them being registered businesses is for them to have a minimum of 50 million market capitalization and be interested in expanding to other shareholders. And for me, those kind of benefits to them really is that it affords them the opportunity to have more investors, enables them, very innovative and flexible options for raising capital beyond just the typical debt that they would have access to. I talked about corporate governance. One thing this process has done is really allow them to look at how do they look at their corporate governance, how are they structured, their systems, the processes, their financial accounting, management, transparency. And the other thing also is that, sometimes what also happens is that as an SME, you get investors on board and then you grow the business, but then maybe that person's your uncle or something. You're finding it hard to exit them. This also, I know one of our persons have said that it's an opportunity for them to be able to exit investors that they don't feel even understand the future direction of the business. So the Growth Board definitely is an important opportunity that we are seeing, and we are working it, and we intend to list at least 5 of our SMEs by 2024 on that path and on that journey, and I really want to commend that. The other thing that I think that we also need to talk about, though, is that when we talk about funding and funding mechanisms, the main challenge really is around credit profiles, right? So whether you want to loan a business 10,000 naira or 10 million naira or $10 million, what you want is to be able to assess, what is the history of this business and the persons behind this business and what is sort of like their profile. And we need to, and the audience that is here at this conference, it's important if we're looking for how can we enable SMEs in particular, because maybe micro, maybe not, but SMEs in particular, it's really investing in digital platforms that enable that credit profiling so that, if Taiwo is reviewing my application for a loan, she doesn't need to know this is Adenike Adeyemi. The credit profile of myself and my business already shows what I am able to do and what my business is able to do. And so that's number one. So we really need to look at digital identity and the role of whether it's BVN for businesses and all of that, and how we link that into the existing credit databases. And so that whether somebody has a grant or they've taken a loan as an individual, as persons, as a business, all of that forms a credit profile and credit scores. We do have that in place, but it is not at the scale, nowhere at the scale that it should be. And I think even from lending, on lending, all of that, it really is going to ease and accelerate the funding process. We've been around for 21 years at Faith Foundation, and I can tell you that over the last 2 years, we've had more funding available from debt, from investments, from grants that has ever been available in the system. So the investments being made from the private public development sectors to invest and finance, but there's still the challenge of how do you allocate this funding and how can you guarantee that you get that funds back? So that has to be looked back. The other thing that I also want to say is that there are other things, there are mechanisms that the government had put in place, like the Movable Collateral Registry, which is was also supposed to help it. Because part of the challenge with a typical MSME requiring fund is that they don't have the typical collateral, right? They don't have the things that they can put down. They don't have landed assets and everything. But guess what? If I'm working from my home, I have laptops, I have equipment. Some of our entrepreneurs at Faith, their cameras, Taiwo was using the example of a fashion person. Their machines are in the millions of nairas or hundreds of thousands of dollars that they imported. Those are collateral examples that can be used. So the idea of the movable collateral registry is a good one. It's been implemented, it's been passed, but it was passed, but the implementation is not as what it should be. And that would also go to a significant extent in also helping to ease funding access to MSMEs and also help the funders also in terms of giving this funding. And so in looking at these conversations, I really want to encourage us to look at the ways to ease funding and financing and financing models for MSMEs across the board. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nikki Adeyemi from Faith Foundation. Thank you very much for your point. I hope you have a session at Faith Foundation sometime soon with the Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers or the NGX to enlighten some of the members about the benefits of using the market window. Somebody will have a few questions from the floor. I'm throwing this to the floor very quickly now for a few comments. We have the microphone roving. If anyone has a question, please kindly indicate by raising your right hand. Yeah, that should be the right hand. Yeah, because, and then we can take something from a lady. You take from a man. Remember, thank you very much. Say hi. Give her a hi. He has an eye. Thank you. We have someone on the floor. All right. Okay, someone is beating over there.
Check. Good afternoon. My name is Collins Omokaro. I'm an essay to the Honorable Minister for Industry, Trade and Investment, Abuja. I wanted to ask this question, specifically to BOI. I know women account for more than 40 to 50% of the MSMEs conversation. So I wanted to know, specifically on the collateralization, especially with commercial banks, how are we engaging them to ensure that, because I know you mentioned something around that, I just want you to elaborate on that, how we can actually have these women participate significantly in accessing all of this funding. I had an engagement with AFDB on this, and they mentioned that they have over $5 billion that they actually want to disburse to just specifically women enterprises. But one of the specific challenges is how they are able to access his collateralization is one of the key issues. And the commercial banking credit structure does not really allow these women access the huge volume of funding that are available. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on that and how we can actually move that target. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ayo, you respond to that very quickly, and I'm going to allow Taiwo Shoneka at First Bank to also make a few comments on that since she works with you. Okay. Let's make it very easy so that I can quickly digest it.
You want me to quickly
respond?
Okay. Good question. Like I said, BOI, we love to lend to women. And to respond specifically to your question, we are also working with the AFDB. There is what is called the AFAWA. I can't give you the full, but it's an initiative to support women and also to ease lending requirements, the collateral requirements for women. It's a $300 million facility, not to us alone, but that's the global amount. We've been engaging with them. We have been identified as one of the institutions that they're going to partner with. And what that money is supposed to do is to de-risk lending to women. So where a woman is borrowing, they will guarantee up to 70%, I think, either 70 or 75% of the loan. So that challenge of collateral, will be eased, significantly eased. That's one of the initiatives. We're talking with the government also to try and see how we can get more funds for de-risking. Because, we borrow money internationally. And if our credit rating, our loan portfolio begins to deteriorate, it affects our rating and also the cost at which we're able to borrow money. So it's not that we want to make things difficult, but we have covenants. We have barriers that we cannot go beyond. So that's why we can't just throw the doors open and make sure that any money we lend out, we're able to collect back. So to the women folks, very soon we'll be able to begin to differentiate and how we lend to you in a much more easier manner.
Ayo, thank you so much. That's the only entry and exit to the hall. All the women were focused on you while you were speaking. I was looking around the hall. And all women, please go in that direction after this panel. Just queue up very nicely over there. He's got billions of naira. I saw even the central bank woman looking at him. So even though central bank has more money than you, she's looking to have some fresh money from you. Women can always use extra bulk. Please give it to them by the way. Thank you so much. Taiwo, are you with me? Taiwo Shudeko from First Bank. I know First Bank has a whole lot of money, but you can use extra from BOI as well.
Okay, thank you. And should I proceed?
Yes, please go ahead. You have the floor.
Yes. I'm always very passionate, not because I'm a woman, but there's so much research that supports that your money is guaranteed to come back 80% more when you are giving money to a woman. And as the builders of the economy, women have transformed so many economies. In a lot of the research, we have them thriving in so many parts of the world. And even Nigeria, in pockets of societies, we see that the women drive economic growth. So part of what we've done in First Bank is we have a women-owned business platform. In fact, it's called First Gem. A lot of you will be familiar with that name. And in that initiative alone, we've actually worked on even identifying the different segments of women that are in Nigeria. So we work with them to ensure that they are able to also position for accessing funding. The problem, honestly, is not that there is no money. It is being ready to access the funding, and Mike had alluded to that. And we also work with development banks, for instance, where we partner with them. There are funds that are sterilized for women-owned businesses. So, and these are given at a significant discount compared to what would ordinarily lend money at. And we work with AFDB, we work with BOI, we work with PACO, we work with so many. So many of them just to find sterilized funds that can be given to women-owned businesses. One of the key challenges, however, is the data that is available to work with this women-owned businesses. So we're beginning to work even internally to actually sterilize the data so that at any point in time, we also understand the businesses that are sitting in our portfolio that are owned by women. And also when these businesses are also being registered, it is presented likewise in the registration documents that it is actually owned and run by women. Because sometimes you see that the principal owner is a woman, but when you look at the documents, you see that maybe it was registered maybe as 60% owned by maybe her husband or someone, but she's really the person that is really driving the business. So that's some of the things that we've tried to help address, because it also helps presenting funding for presenting the right application in a way that it presents the real facts in the future. So these are some of the things that we're doing, and I'm proud to say that in our loan portfolio, anytime we're working with international boards, we are always very proud to show that this is how much we've supported the female gender. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Terry. I can give her a round of applause. We'll take just about one or two more questions, but we way back in 2011 and had the Africa-Mexico investment summit and what have you. And they had an intervention, which I've worked for a number of years, which was what we call the family support program. And what they started with was to give the monthly support at the end of the month to the husband, who is the head of the family. But the authorities found out that the husbands, many of them hardly come back home for 1 day or 2 days after they get the free money from the government. So they found out what's going on. Found out that as soon as they go to the government office and pick up the free cash, they end up in beer parlor, whatever, second wife, third wife, whatever. By the time they come back home, they said some of them they pick up from the gutters because they got drunk. So money was being wasted, millions of dollars. So the government of Mexico said, okay, we're going to start giving it to the wife. And the men were protesting, and they said, no. Now, at the time they were telling us this in Mexico, they made serious success because as soon as women get the fund, they go pay school fees, pay some rent that is outstanding, they buy food into the house, and everything is done. So they said, why give the money to a BOI? Maybe if an entrepreneur comes in and is the man, you could say, if you're married, say, not that he's wearing a ring, but he's really married. They just say, bring your wife and then the disbursement to her rather than the husband. That would be a very good suggestion, by the way. But just by the way, let's take another question. Very quickly, my time is running short as the call-over chairman. Who is bidding there? Thank you. Please stand up for recognition and get your microphone. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Charles Okoye. There's no doubt that the way to go is for these SMEs to actually leverage the capital market to raise the cheapest funds they can work with and be profitable. However, the CBN at the moment is handling a lot of interventions that we doubt whether they actually get to the real needy sectors of the economy, of the industry that we're talking about. How do we monitor, Madam CBN, to ensure that these funds actually get to use to be executed in the projects for which they are meant for? 2, is there no possibility that we can actually leverage on technology to be able to achieve the monitoring to ensure that we get the full benefits of these disbursements? Then, to the BOI, the question is, how do we assist in building capacity for these SMEs managers to ensure that they have the capacity and the necessary skill, not theoretical, because most of the times we tell them how to do accounting and ensure that they get the loan. Once the loans are disbursed, that's where the job ends, and we have difficulty in making collections. How do we ensure to build capacity in that sector? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let me allow the central bank to go first.
Thank you for the question. First and foremost, before a facility is granted, ensure that the funds have been duly utilized for the purpose intended. Then for the issue of wide reach, of course, as we disburse, we ensure that the 6 political zones at least are presented on it, except for some project that we know for sure is for Southwest, like industries are more in the Southwest. And of course, you can't say no, you won't give the Southwest because it is not in the North. But because it has their need, of course, it's also granted. So that's how we handle it. I hope that addresses your question.
Thank you. BOI.
Okay. Aspects of as we can to.
You know what the gentleman was talking about is that all these very nice 5-star hotel, whatever it is in your office. As soon as the alert comes in, here, all those things you've said in the classroom, I just go straight through via here and see some car dealers without there looking at the next car. But again, maybe we'll think of setting up a school of practical MSMEs education. I'm just going to take this last intervention right in the front because I'm holding 2 ladies on the virtual, and I wouldn't like to keep them waiting. Please give it to the distinguished. Who has the?
Hello.
Where is the?
Good afternoon.
Okay, that's definitely not the last then.
Yes.
Please make it very quick. Thank you so much.
Okay. My name is Mahmoud Kabir Ahmad. I want to call the attention of the developmental finance institutions in Nigeria to understand the two challenges that's happening in terms of developmental finances. Because if you review most of the developmental financial institutions in Nigeria, that include Bank of Industry, Development Bank of Nigeria, Bank of Agriculture, and the recent one, National Microfinance Bank developed by the Central Bank of Nigeria. Most of them, what they perceive is having a single-digit rate is what will develop or attract the SMEs to come to the finance, which in reality is no. Because these two challenges, number one challenge is the level of awareness to the MSCs. Number two is the criteria, easing the criteria for having these loans. Because if you go to the websites of all these financial institutions and check the criteria for assessing these facilities to the MSCs, most of the times you will understand it's very difficult for somebody who has a low level of knowledge, which is one of the criteria of the most of the owners of the MSCs in Nigeria can even afford. Then secondly, level of awareness. Majority of the people, as now the managing director of the Bank of Industry said, almost 95% of the business transactions done in Nigeria is carried out by MSCs. But most of these MSCs, they are not aware with even the financial, developmental financial institutions in Nigeria. You will be surprised if you go, for example, to Kura in Kano State. Go and meet the rice millers. Ask them, have they known about the Bank of Industries? Ask them, have they known about the Bank of Agriculture? Ask them, have they known about the CBN's, this thing? You will be very surprised on that. Go to Hadeza, for example, in Jigawa State. Meet the fish canners. So they are doing their business into millions of nairas. Ask them, have you known these financial institutions? Most of them, they don't know them. And most of the financial institutions, they have a lot of facilities and windows or pounds. But the target audience, they were not even aware of that. They are not. For example, if not because of some of the these business development this thing adopted by the Bank of Industries, is even that one they are not enough. I could not remember a time where I had a program in our local mass media that sponsored by the Central Bank of Nigeria or any other financial institution for making an awareness of this kind of the district.
Thank you very much. Please give him a round of applause. Language. If you can have websites in English, French, Arabic, whatever, then we can have it in three main Nigerian languages. POI, gentlemen, maybe you need to.
It's noted, and
look
we're
at the
working
website,
on.
for example, and just put the language. And it doesn't cost much to do language translation. I don't know if it's easier or cheaper in French and Arabic.
The challenge is that the category of people that may not be able to understand English may also not be able to use the website. But that's not to say that we're not thinking about communicating in local languages. In fact, our state offices, they typically broadcast on local radio in the local dialects.
Thank you very,
yeah,
thank you very
so
much.
we do that.
We need to
but
do
we'll
a
do
whole lot
more.
more. We need
we'll
to
do
do a
more
whole lot
of
more with our local languages. If you look at success in a number of countries, even in East Africa, language is one thing. If you look at Rwanda and Kenya, for example, they use their local languages to do a whole lot. You go on the Twitter handle of the president of Rwanda, is communicating in Kenya-Rwanda language, not in English.
Valid.
And that goes straight to the people. And I think we can do that with our DFIs. Even the CIS may need to speak the language of the people as time goes on. Mr. President is here taking note. And the communications people. Okay, he has the floor. The gentleman is too close to me.
My name is Bayo Olubeni.
Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. I'm just wondering, BOI, is there anything we can do to cut the middleman between you and your customers? Or middlemen, you know what I mean? For most of your funds, it has to go through commercial banks. In terms of bank guarantee, and I can tell you, because I have some experiences, they frustrate you. What takes you like 1 month to approve takes the bank like 6 months to get the bank guarantee. I think you could think about it. I don't know how you want to do it. I don't know if that's part of your policy, but I think you should go and look at it to see how you can cut off middlemen between your customers or those accessing your fund and you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bayo Lugbemi. Let me just take that question straight to Taiwo. Taiwo Shudekan, are you there from First Bank?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, thank you very much. The allegation is that you banks are delaying the process of the flow of money. Is that true?
There might be some delays, but it's also when we are trying to meet the requirements. And if you remember, if you recall, part of the issues or challenges I had spoken about at the beginning, when you asked that what are the things that we would like to see, it is that we would like to see the readiness in terms of meeting the requirements from the SMEs. And we see that a lot of times that is not evident. And part of what we are doing to close that gap is to work with the SMEs to ensure that at the time that they actually need to apply or access funding, they are ready to. It is a big problem that we're facing in terms of how SMEs are running the business from day one and ensuring that they have the right structure, corporate governance in place to access funding. Again, we are a commercial institution. We want to be sure that we're doing things the right way. So where there are delays, they're usually based on the documentation not being where they should be. But we are working with all the relevant stakeholders to ensure that we can move things as quickly as possible through the value chain. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'll take that as your closing remarks. Let me allow the ED at Faith Foundation, Mrs. Nikki Adeyemi, to give us 60 seconds, 1 minute conclusion. Madam, you have the floor.
Okay, great. So I think in rounding up, there are 3 points I'm going to make. The first is that MSMEs are very important. And we keep saying the MSMEs here. If we count at least 6 to 7 people we know, particularly younger demographics, they're either employing themselves or somebody that is running a business. MSMEs are the backbone of the Nigerian economy. They create at least 7 of each 10 jobs that's available. And so if we're not intentional in the support that we're giving them, that means that we're also delaying the growth and the program, that money. And that money goes to impact not just the businesses, but also has its own impact effect. When we talk about security and all the other challenges that we see, what we see is young Nigerians who have time and they have energy, but they can't be diverted to so many things. And that's why either helping them to create a trade or getting them to be employable through MSMEs is also very crucial and also very important. And I think one of the things, we've all talked about knowledge and capacity gap of MSMEs. So the last point is around the importance of the education sector. And this is not just making entrepreneurship as a curriculum, but making sure that entrepreneurship is across all the curriculum that we have, from secondary school, from junior secondary school level. I didn't interface with anything around accounting or budgeting until I'd left university. And that should not be so. Regardless of whatever people study, people should be able to have an entrepreneurial approach to the thinking. And so we have very influential people here. And one of the important things is that how do we get entrepreneurship to be incorporated as part of the learning, the curriculum, the pedagogy across all schools, across all levels? That will significantly reduce the knowledge gap that people would have by the time they start to create businesses. People are creating businesses early. When we were started, in fact, for the first 10, 15 years, we did not have for a lot of our programs, you had to have finished the tertiary institutions. And then 3 years, we looked back and then we realized that 60% of the people we enrolled in our AAP program had already started businesses by 2nd or 3rd year in school. So people are starting businesses significantly early. And that's why that investment and knowledge needs to be there in terms of the education curriculum, so that a lot of the challenges that the funders are seeing in not being able to fund them are also addressed. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. A round of applause for Nikki Adeyemi. We all said, everyone, thank you very much. I'm going to allow the Deputy Director at the Central Bank to have the final word on this panel because her boss signs the currency. And the e-naira, by the way, in case you have gotten yours, let's know.
Thank you very much. In fact, going back to the question you asked concerning the debt involving the capital market, it now came to my mind that we have some interventions indeed, that we have the debt component part of it. So I think arising from here, we're going to engage you to see if we can see the light of that component for our agri-credit, small and medium enterprises leg of it, and also the tertiary institutions entrepreneurship scheme has that component also. So we'll engage you to see if we will be able to do something for the SMEs in that window. Thank you.
Thank you. Please take the CIS, Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers, along. Thank you very much. Please a round of applause for my panelists. Nikki Adeyemi from Faith Foundation, thank you very much. Taiwo Shuneko from First Bank of Nigeria, thank you very much, madam. And thank you very much from Ayo for representing Ayo, representing the managing director. Please give our best regards to him. And please, madam, please regards to also the director of development finance and the central bank. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This is bringing this session to a close. Let me yield to the master of the ceremony. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to you, Boss Omafaye. Thank you very much. An excellent and seamless delivery there. And thank you to all the panelists, yes, online. The women, we heard your voice, and we also have taken to your recommendations. But then I keep wondering, whose side are you on, really? Yeah, whose side are you on? Yeah.
The last time my salary was paid, it was into my account. But if you're moving, that salary should now be paid into wife's account and not a husband's account. You've got to go to the National Assembly to do that. But for now, I'm on the side of who pays my bill.
Oh, I get you. Please give him a round of applause. Give him a round of applause. Yeah, indeed, his tune is decided by the person paying the piper. Please, women, give yourselves a round of applause as well. Yes, it's a good one. It's a good one. However, we would not let you all leave except we give you due appreciation. And to do that, I would like to welcome the president and chairman in council of the Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers, our wonderful Mr. Amolegbe, as it comes up on stage to present your appreciation plaques to you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Please let's welcome Mr. Amolegbe as it comes on. Please give him a round of applause. Give him a round of applause, please. Thank you.
Behalf of Governing Council and members of the thank you very much for accepting our invitation and for sharing your vast knowledge with us. I hope that you honor us consequently when we call you. Thank you very much. We thank you very much for representing Mr. Kayode, our honorary fellow, and for sharing your vast knowledge with us. We hope and pray that next time we do call you, you honor our presence. Thank you very much. God bless. Uh, Goes well. You are one of us, a member of the family. So, but having said that, we do not take presence here for granted at all. We know your schedule is very busy, and always bring all you have demonstrated today. You always bring it to whenever we call you. We are- oh yeah, absolutely. We are glad to have you, and we know that the next time we call you and you don't answer us, we know where to get you. So it's not.
I'll be on
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right, please, I'd like that you stand together for a group photograph. Please, I'd like that principal officers also join this group of panelists for the photo op. Now, before we continue, thank you very much, panelists. Thank you. Thank you to Adenike Adeyemi, Taiwo Shoneko, Miss Irene, and Bosse. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, please let's give them a round of applause. Let's give them a round of applause. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you very much. Thank you. At this point, I would like us to quickly get on to the next. And the next thing that we have is a 30-minute roundtable discussion. A 30-minute roundtable discussion. And the talking point would be centered around unclaimed dividends and suggestions for the 2021 Act. We're now going into a 30-minute roundtable discussion with the focus being unclaimed dividends and suggestions for the 2021 Finance Act. At this point, I will be handing over to the moderator, who is a past president, Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a round of applause for. Okay, I'll have to take a break before we get on that, I'll have to take a break before we get on that. Can we have a brief music interlude while we get ready for that 30-minute roundtable discussion? Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, well done for so far, so good. And I also understand that while most of us, our daily lives, our different work and businesses includes us, sitting in one position. I know we have been seated for quite a while. So please, right now, just for another 1 or 2 minutes, I think you can stand up on your feet and just stretch your legs. Yes, just stretch your legs quickly. Just stretch your legs quickly. Don't leave the hall. Don't leave the hall because you are about to be seated just as soon as you have stood up. So please, I'd like you to just stretch your feet, stretch your feet, stretch your feet, stretch your feet. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, as you are stretching your feet, I would now like you to return to your seat, but you remain standing. As you return to your seat, please, I would like you to remain standing. As you return to your seat, I would like you to remain standing. I would like you to remain standing, even as we acknowledge and welcome into our midst the Director General, Securities and Exchange Commission. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a round of applause for Dr. Lamido Yuguda. Please give a round of applause for Dr. Lamido Yuguda. We are not doing enough about that applause. We are not doing enough. I want us to give a befitting round of applause for Dr. Lamido Yuguda. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now you can have your seat. Okay, Dr. Lamido Yuguda has just acknowledged our greetings. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, please have your seats. Please have your seats as we continue with what is before us. Ladies and gentlemen, please have your seats. Please have your seats as we continue with today's agenda. Ladies and gentlemen, beloved stockbrokers, please, I would like that we all return to our seats now. Thank you. Thank you. We still have more people standing than is necessary. We still have more people standing than is necessary. Please, I would like that we all return to our seats and take our seats. We are about to proceed into the 30-minute roundtable discussion. We are about to proceed with the 30-minute roundtable discussion. For the 30-minute roundtable discussion, the topic again is unclaimed dividend and suggestions for the 2021 Finance Act. At this point, I'm going to be handing over to the moderator, who is a past president of the Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a round of applause as I welcome Mr. Michael A. Itegwoje, FCS.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this special session, round table. Even though we're not having a table, please, can I have the panelists? We have distinguished panelists made up of Mr. Adeola, Chief Strategist, Cardinal Stone Registrar. Please, can you move forward? Alhaji Kasim Ukrufi, FCS, Managing Director, CEO, Securities and Funds Limited. Ms. Onome Komolafe, Divisional Head, Business Services and Client Experience, CIS PLC. Mr. Obong Idiong, Managing Director, CEO, African Prudential PLC. Dr. Afolabi Olowokere, Head, Economic Research and Policy Management Division of the SEC of SEC. And last but not the least, the evergreen, Mr. Nona Awo, representing the shareholders. You're welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a special session, like you know, and it's to discuss unclaimed dividend and make suggestions for the 2021 Finance Act. We are all aware about the situation with unclaimed dividend. It's been on for a long, long time, and most times figures are bandied that you don't really know the actual figures of unclaimed dividend. And there have been issues about laws and all that. Now, we are faced with a situation where people are saying we have 300 billion unclaimed dividends. How true is that? And what is the way out? I would like Nona Awo to kick off by telling us a little bit about unclaimed dividends. Nona Awo, you know you wear a lot of caps here.
Thank you, and good afternoon. First, let me say that at the first coming of Mr. President Muhammadu Buhari, and I did a story being head of capital markets in Business Concord, and the back page was that Idi Agbon, Ransom Kuti, and others in unclaimed dividend saga. The figure then was less than 1 billion. Little did I know that this is where it's going to end at his second coming. But from all that had happened over the years, and that may continue to also happen in the years to come if adequate attention is not given to this, is that the locals will continue to be marginalized as far as returns on the capital market is concerned. Unfortunately for us, the new DG of SEC is here. First, I think that there is need for a huge collaboration between CBN and SEC, not one acting as a subset of the other when it comes to the capital market issues. Because if the central bank does understand much more what the capital market position should be, and then all of us will be on a better page going forward. And if you don't mind, I will say that one of the biggest challenge is that virtually all players in the capital market have not done enough as relates to the issue of unclaimed dividends for the benefit of the investing public, which ironically in a number of times also include the stockbroking firms. Because if you pick an unclaimed dividend booklet today, you'll be amazed as to the number of unclaimed dividends that is attached to a number of stockbroking firms. So we all need to put our house in order in terms of policy for the unclaimed dividends to become a thing of the past. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you very much. Deola, Mr. Deola, what do you think about solutions, unclaimed dividend? And then I want you to answer the question. Is unclaimed dividend issue a fable or a reality?
Thank you very much, sir. I'll start with saying good afternoon to everyone, and thank you to the CIS for inviting Cardinal Stone to this roundtable discussion. Unclaimed dividend problem is a reality, and what can be done? The biggest challenge with unclaimed dividend is the issue of identity for the registrars. Registrars rely on a lot of other stakeholders to resolve identity problem, and I'll share insights. The e-dividend mandate process largely relies on the banks to verify to the registrar's identity of shareholders. The transfer forms largely relies on the stockbrokers to verify the identity of shareholders to the registrars. If we look at the entire process, we realize that each of the stakeholders has a part to play. We have not achieved a high level of efficiency across that flow. If all of the different stakeholders come together, the banks, the stockbroker, one, historically, we had a problem of unique identifier. Now we have the case of the BVN, which was why Mr. Nunao talked about also collaboration with the CBN. If all of the stakeholders work together with a view to optimize the potential of the BVN, we would likely reduce the case of unclaimed dividend in the market. And also the regulators achieved a lot of progress in ensuring that new investors do not have issues with unclaimed dividend. And they've leveraged on BVN, they've leveraged on new ways to do KYCs, they've leveraged on new ways to onboard shareholders into the capital market in Nigeria. But for the historical shareholders, all of us still needs to come together and see how we can achieve efficiency, especially relying on the BVN. Thank you very much.
Thank you. If, with all that SEC had done in the past few years, that have checkmated unclaimed dividend issue for new holders, how come, new shareholders, how come the amount is increasing and we are not talking about 300 billion? Ufi, can you throw more light on that? Yes. Why are we having this increase on claimed dividend?
I think well, why the unclaimed dividend keep on increasing is because we did not stop bleeding. I'm a retail investor. In this year alone, I opened more than 1,000 client accounts with their VVN and account number. And I can tell you more than 70% of them, they have not got their dividend. Why? Because even when you give this data to CIS, the registrar, they will tell you that they have not got it. Now the question, the regulators that say from November last year, nobody KYC. What have they done to follow the KYC? Why are they not getting their dividend? Because they did not take any measures against that. That is why we keep on getting new client accounts with all the details without getting their dividend. But I will take you back. The issue of unclaimed dividend is an issue that as far back as 1972. By the time we go to the Bureau for Public Enterprise in the 1990s, that did the allotment of shares by constituency.
Recording in progress.
And to date, our unclaimed dividend keep on running because those accounts that initially did not get their dividend paid keep on maintaining them to date. So my advice, the regulators must first, anytime they give an advice to say that this is what to be done, ensure if anybody did not comply, this is punished. I'm telling you, with the dealing brokers, we have our unclaimed dividend. Are the registrars saying that they don't know us? Are the registrars saying that they don't have our signatures with them? Most of the stockbroking firms, they have their unclaimed dividend. If the SEC will look at their stuff that invested in the various companies, they will see their name unclaimed dividend. Why? Because if I decided not to pay, nothing happened to me. And therefore, at the end of the day, after 12 years, it becomes a working capital to the company. So it pay not to pay than to even pay timely. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Obon Gideon, you are representing the African Potential
Correct, sir.
Trust. Why are we still having delays releasing dividends 48 hours after they have been declared and approved?
Thank you very much, sir. And I'd also like to thank the CIS for setting up this panel. First of all, I think the figure that is going around now is 170 billion. First of all, I think that to discuss this problem, we need to understand the different angles of the problem of what is causing these issues of unclaimed dividend. As my colleague has said, and other members of this panel rightly so, they talked about the KYC issue. The registrars have to have a mandated account before they pay, right? That's one of the issues. CIS has said there's only 2% of complete mandated account KYC accounts. Now, let me give you the enormity of this. 2%, there are about 4.1 million investors in the market. There are about 560-something thousand that are very active. 2% is just 80,000, first of all. And then, secondly, there are multiplicity of accounts. There's a duplication of accounts, a lot of members bought shares in different companies in different names. Now, to do that, before you pay, there has to be a KYC and a mandated account. But that can't happen because a lot of those that bought multiple accounts can't go, they don't have BVN for those names. They can't go and get that. A third part of it is also the market-wide, like Mr. Nona Awo said. There's an issue of, there's a silo in the market, right? In terms of the operators working in silos. Before, we're talking about KYC. Everybody has talked about the KYC. Now, the major areas for when the intervention of the government trying to solve KYC issues was the BVN and the NIN. But you will not believe that there is no interoperability where we can, within the market, have access to those BVN and NIN accounts so that we can mandate the accounts, right? So these are issues. Then you go to the probate problem because some of the people that ask for that come to access accounts that have unclaimed dividend are people that are going through, maybe for their loved ones, probate services. And that is also, it also has a problem, it's very inefficient, right? One of the things we're trying to do is, if we can bring this together, if you can automate even the process, because for you to get, we have something called the e-dividend mandate management system, we call it the EDMMS, and it's a form that you used to fill to mandate your accounts. Remember I've told you how limited the mandate accounts are. And to get that form, the process is so, it's a very, very difficult process, and it causes a lot of long turnaround times because of the interoperability and connection between the registrar's portal and also the NIPS portal. So you see, there's so many issues, and I think it's a market-wide. It's not a case of, the registrars. Let me tell you, a lot of people have this. They have this, they think that the registrars actually gain from this unclaimed dividend. In the last unclaimed dividend, the registrars have mounted about 1.1 million accounts. We've mandated 1.1 million accounts. For us, my company, this year alone, we've done about 138 billion in terms of paid out dividends. Last year was 120 billion. And it happens consistently in the registrar, across my other colleagues. But if we don't solve these problems and we just think it is one-off or is the registrar not paying, then we're going to miss the point. We're going to miss the point. And I'll talk about it again further when we talk about the what we can do in terms of the Finance Act. Thank you.
Before I call on Ome, let's hear a bit from SEC. Dr. Afolabi Olowokere, SEC gave a mandate that accounts should be merged over a period of time. And yet we're having problem of multiple accounts having problem with unclaimed dividend. What can we do about that from the perspective of the regulator?
Okay, thank you very much, and thanks to the organizer. I just want to say something about figure. You started with figure, which is very important to me, and I think you answered part of the question. You mentioned 350 billion, but we know it's about 170 billion, as I said. Out of the 170 billion, you can take 30 billion away because they are less than 15 months. You have another 130 billion that is with the company, return back to the company. Then you probably have about 10 billion in the hands of Registry because they have to take certain 10%, which they then collect from. If you also look at that, part of the money, some of them are actually going to be out more than 12 years. So you just have to look at it, what is even the size of the unclaimed dividend. So most times, when we speak about this figure, they look very big, but by the time you dimension them, you may see that there are different parts that we need to look at more critically. That is very important to mention. The other issue, which then will answer your question, is that why do we even have this multiple source? I mean, unclaimed dividend, right? And then, as a regulator, you must understand this because you're also dealing with several persons. If you don't understand it, then you are going to have a wrong policy or a way of dealing with it. We understand that a lot of people don't collect their dividend because there are multiple subscriptions. A lot. Many shares are not claimed. That's what you just said. So if SEC says, I mean, I sit on the CMC committee of the capital market, so I understand some of these arguments. People come around and say, okay, let's have e-dividend committee. E-dividend committee worked for several years and found out that you cannot solve the problem of unclaimed dividend if you don't solve the problem of unclaimed shares. Because shares, money will still be paid on those shares forever. So now you have a lot of people that are registered name in different names. Alhaji just said that. So by the time you say, come forward and regularize your shares, this person has different names. Some are not coming forward. We've done a lot of awareness. We have given forbearance. I'm sure you've heard some of these arguments before. We try to tell people, please come forward, regularize your shares. And I think as a last count, we have about 50,000 accounts regularized, about 4 billion something in terms of units. So when this regulator says come forward to regularize, it is very important for everybody in the market to ensure that people regularize their accounts. Because if they don't regularize their account, you are still going to be paying dividend on those accounts. The other alternative is to say, what do you do with those accounts? Are you going to take them over, or are you going to leave them the way they are? I think there are so many issues that we need to deal with in order to be able to reduce the size or the quantum of unclaimed dividend that we have in the market. But as far as the regulator is concerned, it's trying to do as much as possible to ensure this is done. Identity management, we have seen, is going to be a major issue. While we deal with the legacy problem, we also must make sure that going forward, new dividend don't remain unclaimed. And I think it's one of the things that the Securities and Exchange Commission is working on seriously. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, Ms. Komolafe, the issue of identity, how is CIS helping us to resolve that? And then what is the interface between the CIS and the registrars to make sure that we don't have issue of identity crisis?
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to be part of these discussions. In terms of the issue around unclaimed dividend, I would say that as a financial market infrastructure, we sit at a very vantage point because we can see across the capital market operators and all the stakeholders, and so we generally would have an idea of what the issues are. So firstly, I would say that while we look at the current problem, one of the things we should, and I don't think there are discussions going around that as much as should be, is how do we, for the primary market, when you want to come into the capital market, what's the level of documentation that we ask for? There's an issue in the market, there's an issuer, there's somebody wants to invest. It's just one form. How much information are we asking for in that form? So you find out that there's a new issue and within 1 year you are having unclaimed dividend on that issue. It shows that there's something wrong with the documentation. Maybe that's the point where we should be asking for the kind of documentation we would need so that we do not have unclaimed dividend in just about 12 months down the road. So I think that's something we should look at very clearly. We're not asking for BVN, we're not asking for KYC, we're just interested in the funds coming in on that particular transaction as at that time. I think that's something that's very critical to the market at this time. Secondly, the next thing we need to look at, and which I think that the last speaker has spoken to, Dr. Olokere, is the issue around identity management. Yes, we have the BVN, but I can assure you, thank God we have the registrars on the panel, that while the BVN is good to go and is a form of identity management and identification, the fact that my name is Onome Komolafe and I present a BVN to you, how do you know exactly that Onome Komolafe is actually the holder of that BVN? Do you want to have some kind of connection or authentication mechanism around that within the market to ensure that that person that is preventing that? And that's what the registrars always say, and which is a very valid point, because this is Nigeria and people actually could get international passports in fake names, and we've seen it happen severally. So we must have a central identity management basis, which we will do, and BVN will do that, but we need to extend that BVN authentication to a means where that authentication is done in real time. And so, for example, if I'd given my top print at the point of getting my BVN, at the point where I'm saying that I am Onome Komolafe, I should be able to authenticate that thumb print against the BVN number that I am providing. Now, coming to the question as to what the CIS is doing regards this, as we are aware, the CIS as a financial market infrastructure is ensuring that, one of our responsibilities is to ensure that this unclaimed dividend issue is resolved, and very quickly too. So what we do, and there's a mandate from the SEC, that no trades would happen except there's complete KYC documentation. And the CIS is enforcing that. And for every complete KYC documentation that we receive from the market, we ensure that this is passed fully to the registrars, and so they have that, and that is done on an online and real-time basis through our systems. So that is one of the reasons, one of the ways we are doing to, things we are doing to ensure that this is resolved. And also to say lastly, sir, if I may, that one of the ways we could also manage this unclaimed dividend issue is to leverage on technology. We just had I've been following the conversations since morning, and there's a lot of talk about the younger generation and how important they are. A lot of them in this room are really not interested in these conversations if the conversations cannot be concluded on their mobile devices. How much are we doing to take some of these issues to conclusion on a technology-based basis? Today, I am aware, and I hope a lot of people are also aware as we talk about unclaimed dividend, the SEC has a portal wherein if you go to that portal, you put in your name, it will tell you in this country, it will tell you whether you have unclaimed dividend or not. Your name would appear and you will know whether you have, and it puts a process there where you can get this. But that's excellent. But how much of that as a younger generation, if I go to that portal, yes, I see my name there, then it tells me I have to print one form, I have to submit another form. At that point in time, people lose interest. We need to integrate that into the fintech space, and you will see a lot of traction around unclaimed dividend. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That takes us to the next issue, solutions and suggestions for the Finance Act of 2021. Please, I'll begin with, again, Nona, from the perspective of the shareholders, what do you want to see about unclaimed dividend? What would be the solution from that perspective?
If you permit me, let me say that most of the solutions that we have put forward so far is basically addressing the new generation. If the man has multiple names, he has not come forward, even when you come and say, come and regularize, he probably will not come, because very many times, with due respect, a number of activities as far as the capital markets are city-based. If you move outside Lagos Central, and you begin to move to Ikorodu, to Ekpe, you begin to find less and less of all the information, in quotes, that you say you are providing, not reaching people. So we need to begin to say, look, how do we don't let us continue to say, oh, this is what is done globally. Let us localize our challenges and then say, what are the local solutions? Okay? One of the things you hear very many times when you go to marriage is, oh, this marriage is made in heaven. And I say, if it's going to be practiced on earth, then you need to also know the condition that exists on earth. So let's also begin to take that same mentality to the activity that we have as far as the capital market is concerned. By the way, the reason that the unclaimed dividend have also grown is not largely because more people have come in and they are not claiming. It's largely because the dividend that Nestle paid in 1990, for instance, was in kobo. Today is paying in multiples of naira. So that itself is, so one of the things I think that we must do to help the issue of unclaimed dividend is to say, if one or two companies practice it even before now, all unclaimed dividend remain unclaimed until they are claimed. If you do that, the companies themselves will then be compelled. The law says if you have unclaimed dividend, invest the money. Are we enforcing that the companies that have the money? The head of research in SEC talked about the companies taking back the money. The law says you should publish names and invest the money. That is not being done. Okay? So we need to go back and say, look, what does the law say? And how much of that are we enforcing? And when we begin to enforce it, in addition to that, once you have the money, you must also disclose how much has come in terms of the return on that investment. But I also think that the route that the federal government has gone is the one that will also cause a lot of disrespect for us as a people. We shouldn't have a government who wants to steal the money of his own citizen. That is what it is. We shouldn't have it. So what one will expect, because with due respect to SEC, one of the things that SEC did, woke up, by tomorrow morning, send the money to a central account. It's not done anywhere. In the first place, the money does not belong to the registrars. We need to understand this, because part of the challenge that we have as a people is that when people take power, they use power in whichever direction they find. And unfortunately, they shoot those powers as if they are carrying submachine guns. What we should do, with due respect, this money is with you as registrar. By the way, fortunately, SEC is also here. No documentation was done as to the money that was coming from the registrar to the central account. No documentation. So if we are not careful, especially when you have an account being transferred from one registrar to the other, there is going to be a lot of mess in terms of money disappearing. We've seen money disappear in the past, but that should not be the way to go. So if government is going to borrow the money from the primary constituent of the holder of the money, not from. Registrar is only an extension of the company secretary's office. So why are you taking the money from the house help when the owner of the house is available? Take back the money, return the money to the company, let the government stand with the companies using whatever instrument, be it Ministry of Finance, be it Ministry of Industry, or an extension with SEC. And this is the money that I'm taking from this company. This is how much I'm going to pay. By the way, when the federal government goes to borrowing money, they don't pay interest on them. They don't pay coupon. We shouldn't come and then you just take money and then nobody knows how. That is not the way to go, because it will be an embarrassment for us as a people. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Adiola.
Thank you very much, sir. I'll put my response in two sections. One, all stakeholders should work together to strive for convenience, meaning that investors in this market, shareholders, should be able to easily access their dividends. There's one of the reasons why unclaimed dividend is mounting that we've not talked about, and that's the part of the minority investors. My colleague talked about the cumbersome process of EDMMS. Then the minority investors ask themselves, why should I go through this process? And they sometimes abandon the funds with the registrars, because you submit the form with the registrars, we send it to the banks, either the banks respond or not. You chase the banks out. If they don't find the signature, they don't respond, or they don't even look at the forms. It finally comes back. The person has been waiting for a long time. If it's declined, he doesn't even get a notification until it gets to the registrars. Registrars at some point designed electronic portals that allows people to seamlessly mandate their accounts. But it's not all in one, right? Because it still has to go to the banks and to other collaborators. If all of us don't work together to strive to achieve a certain level of convenience for the investors in this market, the unclaimed dividends will continue to happen with or without the Finance Act. So we must first ensure that we put in place measures, strategies, structures that allows the minority investors to easily access their dividends, either from the comfort of their homes or at zero cost to them in terms of money, time, effort, right? You see investors sometimes, they have to transport themselves to their banks to go and change their signature before they finally get the bank to approve the EDM, the mandate form, that then gets to the registrar, and at the end of the day, the unclaimed dividend is 150 naira. And the investor is asking himself, why do I want to invest this time, this effort, this cost in claiming this dividend? So that's one part. If we all work together to review the entire process and strive to achieve convenience as our objective for minority investors across the Nigerian capital market. Second, and that also borders on the Finance Act. As a registrar, we've seen the process flow designed for the transfer of the funds. There are a lot of questions as to the process flow designed for access to reclaim the funds. I just talked about the investor abandoning even the funds with the registrar because it's cumbersome or difficult or expensive for him. If he then has to write to the accountant general, and then the accountant general has to then submit for recommendation to the finance minister, the same process or the same thing the investors done when the funds were historically with the client companies is what probably would happen at this point again. So we first need to ensure we find solutions that allows investors to easily claim their dividends in the capital market, working with the registrars, the stockbrokers as well, because they do the KYC, they onboard the investors. They are the ones that confirm to the registrars that they know these investors. The bankers as well, because in today's world with BVN, we might start to place less reliance on certain verification models that will be historically used in this market. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Rufi?
Yes.
The stockbroker's perspective, solution.
Well,
solution.
The solution is very clear. First, stop bleeding. I told you 70% of the newly opened account with BBN and bank account were not getting their dividend. The regulator must check this. Since you say that no any new account will be opened without BBN and bank account, go further. If such complied and the dividend is still outstanding, punish the registrar. Because we have given the detail. Why are we bleeding? The second issue is this. Now, the National Assembly has to come in. Because, look, there is no outstanding unclaimed bonuses. Why? Because accounts were credited. So make a law that if any dividend outstanding for more than 3 years, allow the company to buy into the stock, so increase the stock holding of that, there will be no unclaimed dividend. Because if you did not collect your dividend, after 3 years, they will convert it and buy your stock, increase your holding. So the question of unclaimed dividend is stop bleeding. Thirdly, if you go further, go across the country, UK, India, Kenya, they all have this law that, look, once an account is dormant, what is an account is dormant? In UK, 3 years, in Kenya, 5 years, we can decide. Once an account is dormant, that means nobody make a claim. Let the government take over. Manage it for a period. If there is not, convert it so that the unclaimed dividend will not go back as a working capital to the company. Therefore, the company will be willing to pay the shareholder their dividend. It will not be held by the registrars. And once everybody sees that there is no benefit, he will be easy and willing to pay that dividend instantly. Because they are benefiting at no cost, that is why they hold it. And there is no law which says that the company cannot hold that one. So please, let us reform our laws so that people will not suffer unnecessarily. Thank you.
Thank you. Habour, over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Solutions.
Yes, solutions. Thank you. You know, over the past few years, SEC has come up with very, very brilliant initiatives. The EDMMS, returning of monies to the companies. So if we keep on looking at the law or blaming, let's be all honest, all of us in the capital market, if we look inwards, there's a lot of inefficiencies. There's a lot of inefficiencies from the brokers' end, there's a lot of inefficiencies from the registrar's end, there's a lot of inefficiencies from the payments end, and that's the truth. right? So we can come and you know, we can say so many things and push the blame. But if we do not look inwards and try and solve this problem, Madam talked about, you know, I'm looking at some level of digitization. There's a different thinking that needs to go around this market. And that's the truth. I mean, we're still doing, you know, there's so many things that, I mean, look at other industries that have evolved over the years. And so if we keep having the mindset of blame, 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 it's not going to take us anywhere. For one, in the registrar space, we see where our gaps are. We know there needs to be silos. You cannot come to Africa Prudential for something and you have to go to Cardinal Stone for the same thing. And we're working towards that. We're working towards a platform to solve that problem, you know, to bring all our processes together. You know, and so we're looking inwards and we're saying, how can we solve, you know, that problem? You know, we also have, you see, it's not a function of where the money is and that's where the blame would be. Like I said, and like Dr. Olowokore said, it's not the funds, a large part of the funds are not with us. And also SEC also does a lot of, we do a lot of returns. Quarterly, monthly, we also have audits, right? There's documentation. In fact, there are cases where we return money and we have to fight with some of the companies to pay so that we can pay shareholders. Now, it's not a thing of this money sitting and look, there's a process of payment. We pay millions of shareholders in a month, you know, so the process of payment. So for the solution, I think we should look inwards. I think we should automate our market. We should make it more efficient. I think there are a lot of silos and we should come together to see how we can make the market more, you know, efficient. And that's how I think we could. So from the point of the government, from the financial part of it, because there's a BVN, there's a NIPS part, there's a CBN part. Someone talked about CBN and SEC working together. You know, there are other, there are those areas that the government can look at, not necessarily just, you know, collection of these funds. Thank you.
Thank you. Onome, before SEC, you raised something about fintech as possible solution. Can you expatiate on that?
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. So I'm saying that we need to leverage on fintech. There's something that Mr. Obong just said about silos. Now, if you leverage on technology, some of these silos would immediately go away. Why do I say that? There's a role that the registrar is playing. The registrar has certain information. There's a role the broker is playing. He has certain information. There's a role that even as a CST we are playing. And so you put all this in one platform and it's accessible. So for example, as an investor, there's somewhere I can go to, and if I put in my name, I know what amount of unclaimed dividend is available for me. Now, instead of downloading a form and completing that form and submitting to a registrar or to the CSD or to the broker, I can complete that form online. That form can immediately, for example, go to NIPS or to the bank and is authenticated in real time online, and that form can actually come back to the registrar, and the registrar sees that this is valid and payment is made immediately via NIPS. We have a lot of startups. We are talking about unicorn companies. This is an opportunity that is just lying there for somebody to take up. And I think that the solution for this still lies with technology. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And lastly, SEC.
Let me say this, that the system and processes we have already in the market, if all of us do what we are supposed to do, we can solve the bulk of this problem. One major takeaway from here is that we can enforce more, especially when people don't want to do what they are supposed to do. But I would just like to say we have a lot of systems in the market that can. So we have EIPO on board. I mean, what you were saying about onboarding people in primary market, we are not supposed to have new companies or people coming to secondary market having unclaimed dividend. The processes are there, but let us do what we are supposed to do together. And the other part is this, especially for the Finance Act 2020. It's very important for us to know this, that even when the government takes the money, we should be able to assist our investors because they can still get their money back. And it's similar to what Alhaji Kofi said about government should take over the money. We have the case in Kenya, we have the one in India. But when government takes the money, because we are not allowing ourselves to give the money to people, we should be able to assist those that work with us or invest with us to get the money at the right time. And we should make sure that new ones are not accumulating. Thank you.
Thank you. Is it not possible? I want to throw this to the audience. Is it not possible for people to get those small shareholders, minority shareholders, to get their dividends back via their smartphone or by their phone? It's not possible. Can we have someone from the audience? Just two. Please, who is passing the mic? 1, 2. Can you go just go ahead? 1, 2. Just there are 2 people already. Yeah. Oh, where? Straight ahead of you. Your name?
My name is Kamaruddin Oladusu. I'm the MD of Equity Capital Solutions. Well, we have listing. I think what Alhaji Kurufi said is the most essential thing. We should stop the bleeding. We should never have situation where new investors are coming to the market and they are having unclaimed dividend. And one very major item that I think SEC needs to take out of the way, if you buy stocks today, even when your details are complete in CIS, you are also expected to submit to make a lodgement. And once this lodgement is not made and forwarded through CIS to the registrar, you probably will not get your payment. This lodgement is no longer a necessity in today's market because the account that has been So you already have the BVN and the account details transmitted by the registrar and the CIS to the registrar. So there's no need for any lodgement again. Let us remove this lodgement as a clog in the wheel of progress. We must take it out.
Thank you. Over here, last. Sorry, yeah. Bio, is that bio? All right.
Thank you. My name is Bayo Olugbe. Let me first correct one impression, Mr. Alhaji Kamaruddin. Now, with CIS transmitting the information as including account numbers or account details to registrars, we don't need any other e-mandate for new shareholders. There were issues early in the life of that new process that we were not getting the information from CIS, and it's been sorted out. It's been sorted out. Now, every form sent to registrars have account numbers. I mean, every detail transmitted to registrars have account numbers, and we are capturing it. If there are issues, maybe pockets of issues here and there, that is being resolved. I just discussed something with Alhaji Kufi today on a particular shareholder that he handled another house handled. They had 2 different CHNs. So, and of course, when it comes to us, we use CHN to create accounts. So we created 2 different account numbers. Of course, thank God, both of them have bank details. So both of them now have bank details, bank mandate, which means we have 1 shareholder, 2 bank mandates. If I have to merge the accounts together so that I have only 1 account, where do I merge it? Though I've discussed with himself and the other broker, we go and settle that matter. So, and we see pockets of that. And I think now I believe also that going forward, CIS will not send any new update without bank mandate. That said, I think the major problem are the legacy issues. How do we solve it? I don't know whether I should mention it, but I know that SEC has started a process of identity management, because that's a major issue in the capital market. Identity management is a major issue. And if we say BVN, we cannot rely on BVN 100% because I don't have access to BVN. So how will I confirm if that BVN I sent to me is genuine or not? And you have people mentioned, we have seen people with the intent of defrauding the system open accounts and they have BVNs. So it cannot be relied on 100%. But I think the market, capital market has brought out an initiative. I'm part of that committee trying to have a unique identity management for our industry. I think if we have that one, it will solve a lot of problems. One other initiative is the issue of that Obong mentioned, I don't know whether Obong or Ayola, that if you are doing a particular process, you have to go to different registrars. The same process, though you have different companies, why can't it be centralized? And I take this issue of e-mandate, for example. When that committee was set up, our recommendation was that we have a single form, that when shareholders complete, you just mention the companies where you have the shares, and you submit it in only one system, maybe register, the bank, or through NIPS or whatever. But today, if I have shares in any company handled by first registrars, in Cardinal Stone, in African Pressure, I will download 3 forms and complete 3 forms. And what we recommend in that committee, is that there should be only one single unique form that you will complete, so that you won't be completing different forms. I think we should look at all this again to solving these problems. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think the roundtable conference.
Sir, I think we have a segment of people there who have been asking questions across the day, and they seem to be marginalized. So if we can just take maybe just 1 or 2, just from that corner.
Go ahead.
Thank you very
But we want
much.
solutions.
Sir?
Solutions. But if they have questions, okay.
Okay.
There's somebody, okay. My name is Oladele Olasukomi. I think one of the problems here should be based more on flexibility among the registrar and all the people that are involved in the unclaimed dividend. Before, when you are asked to write your name, without giving you specific formats, some people will say surname first, then other names. But by the time you now fill different forms with different formats at different places, you now present your BVN. One reads Oladele. My name is Oladele Olasukomi now. But by the time there is another document that now reads Olasukomi Oladele, you now say it is not my own. I print my BVN to you, reflecting my name. Even if they are inconsistent, the address and every other detail that my BVN is printed to show you, and it's not different one, are still depriving me of, you are still depriving me of that thing. By the time the problem is too much, I look at the materiality of the old issue and all the stress that I have to go. Many people will just abandon the thing and let it go. But if a stockbroker involved, he knows this thing, or something else to solve the most important thing, the dividend does not go to whether the dividend or the certificate does not go to the wrong hand. If there is enough trust, flexibility, and I don't think we give ourselves much.
Good afternoon, panelists. My name is Antonia Obidima Waji. Sir, I'm going to talk as regards to the mismatch that we have with registrars when it comes to paying of outstanding dividends. Now, Registrar A, Registrar B, and Registrar C seems to have different requirements and style of processing outstanding dividends, which shouldn't be. If you buy or sell security, within 3 days, you ought to pay for those who sold the proceeds of the sales. Now, I am wondering why some outstanding dividends would stay with registrar from above. Why some will pay probably within 2 weeks, mismatch, which shouldn't be. Number 2, thank you, madam, for the question on SEC that yes, you can search your dividend and you get it. Very true. But madam, there is need for SEC to also update that portal. Why? Because I've had a scenario where I've done a portfolio audit for a client. He got this money and apparently came back and said, I still have money. And I said, hi, I said, check the portal. And I went there and really saw his name. And then went back, he has been paid. So you can check Yes, your standing dividend is this. It should cut across all boards, irrespective of the registrars concerned. But I've got a problem where Registrar A will list so many requirements for you to get the outstanding dividend. Registrar B will say, we don't treat it like that. That's our registrar. It shouldn't be. In a regulated environment, we must have a unique way of solving dividend here. Number 3, as regards to estate management accounts, now, an investor died intestate without a will in place. His administrators came on board. They never knew the man had securities until 2 decades after. Now, from the global search we did, we went back to the registrar to get these monies. However, this took a very long period of time before it was completed. Now, I'm told that this is statute bed. It's 12 years, you can't get the money. But sir, the question I'm putting to you is that, sir, you've got the money in the bank and you are not in the country. Apparently, you've let that money in the bank for years, 10, 15 years. So would it be that because that money has been sitting down there, after 12 years, you wouldn't get the money back again, sir? There is need for us to look inward into that. Because I feel that people, investors who died and left their will for their administrators, they should be able to get that money. It's their entitlement. They shouldn't be deprived of that. And then finally, sir, we need to have a uniform system of processing fee. Why did I say so? I did a series of estate account management, and I've seen a scenario where some registrar will charge me 1.5% for the estate management account, while some will charge the statutory fee by a SEC, which is 1%, right? Now, if the dividend involved here is less than 20,000 naira, in an estate account, you've got to pay 12,000 naira search fee. You've got to pay 1% fee on that account. Now, when you sum all of that up, how much is left in the dividend? I would likely implore you, sir, to look into this. A scenario where you have a dividend that is pretty lower, I think there's need for us to take off that code. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Those are tough questions.
And seemingly personal too. And seemingly personal too.
Exactly. The market understands them. There are issues that people face. She's not the only one. There are many people who face those issues. Because go and try to do an estate conversion and you will see what will happen. But please, we don't have enough time. I just want to give the panelists a minute each to give us whatever answer they can give. Solutions, like I said, how do we move forward? The unclaimed dividend issue cannot just be left like that. How do we move forward? What do we really do to solve the problem? Closing remarks. Nona.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I think in all of this, we'll be missing a major fact if the route we want to take is to say because India is doing this, Kenya is doing this. Because what is happening to the unclaimed dividend is some level of capital flight. Once the money returns to the company, the majority that takes the next dividend from part of that money is the foreign investor. Is the major shareholder, and very many times they are foreigners. Please don't let us start another abandoned property saga in Nigeria. What is not your money is not your money. That is one of the ways that we can encourage small investors. Any market that refuses to grow its capital market will continue to grow forever and ever. Bring the best of presidents. He will never make an headway because every country is expected to be long-term in its development. Why will we be different? So, no statute bar on any unclaimed dividends. As long as the money is there, the company must invest, and when the person comes, you must pay the money. Thank you, Mr.
Nome, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you. So for me, I just to make my own input around the Finance Act, I don't think that in today's Finance Act there's any statute bar on unclaimed dividend. It's a debt in perpetuity by the federal government, and so you can actually get it back when the investor turns up. But in terms of solutions, like you have said, sir, I said my thoughts are the first thing is that we need to resolve the issue around identity management in the capital market. The banking industry did it with BVN. We need to do that in the capital market. And secondly, like I have said before now, we need to leverage on technology. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think for me, I would like to bring it to reality a bit. In the market today, from a registrar's perspective, when a company declares dividend, on day one, in fact, some of us have started paying immediately after approval at the AGM. On day one, 90% of the dividend is paid out in terms of value. The remainder 10% most times is accounted for by about 80% of the shareholders, remainder minority shareholders under register. So we need to first look at, so if we have this Finance Act systems, the people that probably will bear the brunt of it are the minority investors. Because the high net worth individuals, institutional investors, they probably account for 70 to 90% on most registers, and they get their money on day one of the dividend payout. So what you see is a dichotomy. 90% of the number of shareholders on the register account for 10% of the value of dividends. So if we're talking of transfer of funds, we'll be likely talking of taking the money of minority shareholders. I think what we should take out from here is a focus on how to create convenience for minority investors to access their dividends so that we won't even have issues of unclaimed dividend or historical dividends or legacy dividends in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I will still appeal to the regulators. Please look at the fee of the registrars. See where you improve the fee of registrars and ensure registrars have the technology that ensure every shareholder got his dividend instantly. Because some registrars, they have about 20 companies. They will pay you the dividend on 1 or 2 companies. The other dividend, they say you didn't apply e-dividend. Can't you have the system? It's the same account, the same broker, the same clearinghouse number. Some dividend were paid, some were not paid. For what? Please, let's ensure they have a due fee and they have the technology that irrespective of whichever stock you buy, once they pay you one dividend, they must pay you the rest. And the registrars, please streamline your system. Streamline your system. The same broker, the same account, the same clearinghouse number. You see a client has 10 companies, 3 were paid, 7 they were saying he didn't write. Write for what? Thank you.
Thank you. I think to actually want properly solve, we need to separate the legacy issues from the current issues. We're talking about identity management here, and we're talking about identity management when it really started. We have a lot of legacy issues where we have a lot of investors in the market that we don't even know where their addresses are. And we're not even to mention bank accounts. So I think that we have to look for a way to solve. And again, I take it to Alachi here. So I come to ask you, can I get this bank account for this investor that you sent to me in 1990, for instance? Can you help me? So we need to be frank to solve these issues. You're talking of current issues today. Let's go back and see how do we solve those issues, even if we have to warehouse them and then look for a way to solve them. And I think that, again, like I keep saying, infrastructure for, we need to develop the infrastructure for market operations. I think that's very, very key. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll still say the same thing, that there are processes, we need to follow them with sincerity, regardless of our personal interests. In some cases, when we have situations like that are not well handled, we can report them. There are complaint management system. We can report them to the SROs or the trade goals or the regulator. In case any registrar is behaving in a manner that is different from what is agreed, let's do what we are supposed to do. I'm sure the Finance Act is actually doing a number of things.